Hey PC gamers, and welcome back to the PC Gamer Chat Log. I'm Lauren Morton.
And hey everyone, I'm Mollie Taylor.
And this week Molly and I are bringing on our staff writer Morgan Park to talk about getting good at games. Like actually good at games. And like not just like games in general, but games that they have gotten like very like nearly competitive at playing. And I think other people have had this experience where you get super into a game either with your group of friends and you're like going into ranked matches, like getting competitive, or you individually are doing like we're going to talk about a lot of PvP, I think, specifically because that's sort of where this stuff comes out. But just getting really good at a game and whether or not that ruins the experience for you, because I think anybody who's sort of gotten to that level, taking a game like pretty seriously, it changes your relationship to that game. And you know, it's whether or not that's actually worth it and whether or not you find enjoyment in it once you get to that level. But before we get to talking about that, Molly, what did you play last week?
Not a lot, honestly, because it is the season of sick Molly right now. I don't know if anyone can hear in my voice, I'm a little bit sick. It is the season of sick Molly. This is like
long
the
time
second
podcast
yeah,
listeners will remember this time last year.
If you remember this time a couple weeks ago, I was sick. This is like the second time I've been sick in a month. So I haven't really played much because I haven't been in the mood to play anything because I've been feeling a bit bleh. But I did play. I don't remember if I mentioned this last week. I started playing Dragon's Dogma, the first one.
Oh, yes.
Dragon's Dogma Dark Arisen. Kind of in preparation of the second one because I am wanting to play the second one, but I want to play the first one first, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So I started playing that. It's really fun. I'm not super far in right now, but I'm enjoying the journey. I'm enjoying the process of Dragon's Dogma. It's you know, it's very janky. I will say that it is very janky, but it's fun. I'm having a good time. Yeah, but apart from that, I haven't really played much. If I'm being totally honest, when I'm sick, I'm not in a game mood at all. It just does. It's not something that even like enters my brain, right? So yeah,
that's a good thing to have started in on though, because I said I wanted to play Dragon's Dogma, the first one.
We both did, yeah.
And I had started like 30 minutes to an hour of it and then didn't go back. And at this rate, it's probably not going to happen for me before the new one comes out. I'm probably just going to have to play.
We're 3 weeks out,
soon.
Lauren.
I know. It's too late for me.
Out. Yeah, I think it is over for you. But yeah, that's me. Dragon's Dogma. In anticipation of the second one. Yeah. How about you, Lauren? What did you get up to?
Also barely anything, if we're being honest.
Yeah.
I don't know what happened to us this week, you and me. I guess I was doing a lot of reading, probably, instead of gaming in my evenings, which will happen sometimes. What did I load up? I played a little bit more Nightingale since the last time we've spoken. The Victorian crafting game that came out sort of like in the wake of Palworld and Enshrouded and right next to Sons of the Forest. It's been a very stacked last like 4 to 6 weeks for survival crafting games. And as we've seen, like the appetite for it remains super huge. Like me and my friends have played multiple of them. But there is a like critical mass point where like that was a lot of survival crafting all on top of each other in the month of February and like end of January. It happened very fast. So I've not put a lot of more time into Nightingale. But I have touched it a little bit more. I've gone on like another like into another biome. Yeah, it's gotten a little bit steamrolled by some other big things that are happening. It feels like Helldivers is very big at the minute.
Yeah.
And that's taking up a lot of space in the collective mind of like our team, but also just players, it feels like at the moment, which is not a bad thing. It sounds like people are having a lot of fun with Helldivers too. So anyway, not a lot to report from me, unfortunately. Just a little more Nightingale. I watched some Twitch streams to get the Twitch drops because my friends got the like purple parasol and a purple dress and like a top hat and
Oh,
whatever else
cute.
that were like the Twitch drop incentives. And I was like, well, I want those. I want a purple parasol. So I did that as well. That's mostly it. Hopefully I'll do better this week. Clearly I need to load up some games because that I broke my resolution. I didn't try a new game last week. Darn it.
Oh, you did so good as well.
Yeah, it's all right. I'll this is the month that people end up breaking all resolutions in, right? You make it through January and then in February you stumble. So I'll do better in March. We will get back to it.
I hate to tell you this. It is March.
I know, that's what I mean.
Oh, I thought you were saying
last week was the end of February. So now this week, this is the beginning of March. So right now, it's time to start doing better again.
You power through. Hell yeah.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Well, with that slightly underwhelming gaming week behind us, let's go grab Morgan and talk about getting good. Okay, Morgan. So tell us what game you got good at.
I've gotten good at 2 games in my life. First one is Rainbow Six Siege. Second one is Hunt Showdown. My 2 FPS loves.
Mm-hmm. Mollie, what have you gotten good at?
Well, I don't want to say I got good because I don't think I ever did. But I attempted to get good at Final Fantasy 14 and kind of more recently Tekken, like Tekken 7 and Tekken 8.
I think
my 2.
I think when you know that you've gotten better than most people at a game when you start to get so self-conscious about calling yourself good. Because you become aware of what the top 1% of players look like and play like, and you're like, okay, I'll never be that, so I guess I can't call myself that good. But in reality, you are probably in the top 20, 15% of players or whatever, so that's pretty good.
Yeah, there's like a tier here that none of us are going to be able to speak to of like, pro level players for certain games, which like, none of us have been that, but that's okay. Most people aren't. They are their own class of player. But being like a normal person who gets like a normal level of like good, the like, the amateur competitive level, like you play a lot of ranked kind of level. And like I don't play any games hardly that like meet those criteria. You guys know that just is not me. I don't have a competitive bone in my body nearly. I did get like good-ish in Guild Wars 2 for a while. I wasn't doing PvP very seriously, but I was doing dungeon runs pretty seriously, which is where you get it, you like distill it to that very scientific process of exactly where everybody stands. Like, Mollie, I'm sure that's what it was like in Final Fantasy 14 too. Like everybody knows exactly where they stand. Everything has to like be well oiled and like things are done in the correct order. Like the boss goes down in seconds, like rinse and repeat over and over again. That's probably my best experience of like actually having been good at any particular game. When did you guys know that you had gotten good, as it were?
Again, like I don't want to say got good. I think there's even though the whole point of this podcast is to talk about getting good. I feel like I don't deserve that title, but I think it is because like Morgan says, it's like it's less of a point of getting good and it's more of a point of self-awareness of like no longer being ignorant of maybe your shortcomings or like being ignorant of the game's systems and becoming more self-aware of like maybe like your flaws, maybe like the people you're playing against, like their flaws. I think that's when it starts becoming like when you have like a deeper understanding of like the inner workings of a game that maybe your average casual who's hopping on for half an hour and doesn't really give a fuck about like how they rank. I think that's when it starts to become maybe more serious than you might have originally anticipated, I guess.
What about you, Morgan?
For Siege, it was when me and my friend were playing ranked pretty much every day, and for like a couple hours every day at least, and we finally just like pushed the boulder up a hill long enough that we got to the top of the platinum ranks, which was like kind of the threshold in that game, where they start to like sort of talk about the high tier versus the low tier players. We had officially entered, almost the high tier basically. So that was the first time we sort of like looked at ourselves and we were like, I guess we're pretty good at Siege at this point. If we're winning most of the time and in Plat, or at the top of Plat. Never got higher than that, and that was also the last time we really played a lot of ranked because I don't know, it had gotten kind of miserable at some point, especially after we got into that new sort of skill bracket and our matchmaking changed to give us opponents that were closer to those higher ranks. The game just played totally differently, and the same goes for Hunt Showdown. You said, Lauren, that you don't have a competitive bone in your body. I'm not that far from that. Like, I'm not really the one that initiates ranked mode with friends. I'm totally happy playing the casual mode. Like in Siege, it's one thing because the actual mode is better when you're playing ranked. It's like a longer match. It's like more fair. It takes longer, but it's better. So that's why we would play that mode. But I would just dread at the end of every match that we lost to just like watch my little progress bar go down. Like I didn't like dwelling on it, and I sort of like would dread like my friends' reactions to losing just as much as my own.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get that because it gets so sweaty. Like the higher you get, the sweatier it becomes, and it is that fear as well of getting to a certain rank and then kind of being fearful of losing it for some reason, which is crazy, right? Like it's a number or it's a word like that's a JPEG in the grand scheme of things. Like technically it means nothing, but I like every time I rank up in Tekken, I like close the game and I take a break for a couple days because I'm so scared of like losing that rank again. And then I'm like, oh my god, I'm like, what if I just got here by chance? It's imposter syndrome, I think, for
Yeah.
me. I'm like I don't deserve to be this rank. Why am I this rank? I'm gonna get demoted and then I'm never gonna be able to get back. And it's so stupid when you think about it. But I definitely get that dread, Morgan, that dread of like seeing the bar go down, or the dread of like booting up ranked and like not knowing like what
You
was
get
gonna
that high.
happen.
You get that high rank, and it's like the ladybug has landed on your finger. You don't want to make any sudden movements or
Yeah.
scare it away. Like you just want to like take as many screenshots as you can of you being in this new bracket before you know it goes away or whatever. And, yeah, for that reason, I've kind of like turned against ranked modes at some point, or at least ranking systems. I've just had enough experiences where they just make me sad and they make my friends unhappy and they make us unhappy to be around each other at some point. That I just kind of like stopped seeing the benefits. And I know those benefits exist. I know some people are just inherently driven by that competitiveness. I'm not. Like I play these games and I try to like find the fun in every individual round or match. Like a good game to me is one that was close and one where there was a really fun play or really fun like round or moment. And I really try to like dwell on that. I try to like push those moments with people I'm playing with to like just focus on that part and not really care if we win at the end. It just doesn't work like that. I can't just force people to think about the game like I do. Some people, I just know if we're behind or if it feels like we're about to lose, they're just going to be like gloom and doom, sort of cynical about the next round.
I struggle to play. Go ahead, Molly.
No, I was just gonna say it's such a big thing. Like the misery is such a big thing in fighting games. Like in like fighting game ranked, the misery that comes with like losing and it like I've seen it. It's happened to me, and I've seen it happen in real time to my friends where they'll be like in a really good mood and they'll boot up Tekken ranked, and half an hour later and they're just in like the foulest mood imaginable. I think it's like, again, we shouldn't, but I definitely feel like we really do tie our self-worth sometimes. And I think especially in fighting games, right? Because, you know, in a say you like just join a random like team for like a comp game in an FPS, right? You lose, you can deflect that blame very easily. You don't have to face your own skill issue. You could very easily just be like, oh, well, my team was dog shit. Especially if they're not your friends as well, right? You just be like, oh, my team was ass. When it's a fighting game and it's just you and it's just the other person and you lose, you got nobody to blame, but you can blame the opponent. You can be like, oh, they're such a scrub, using a scrubby character. Oh, they were just mashing. They only lost because they mashed. Like, you could use those like very bad excuses, but I think ultimately there's no one to really deflect blame on, especially in a fighting game. And I think that's what leads to so much misery, especially in my friend group anyway, when that happens. Is like, who can I clown on? Even though I know it's my fault, who can I clown on? Myself, and that's it. And that sucks.
Mollie,
I don't want to tie a rank to my self-worth.
would you say that that's sort of like there's nothing else to blame? Is sort of why the fighting game communities is like a little more obsessed with like netcode and lag than most other game types, because the netcode is something you could blame if it's not up to snuff.
I would say it's maybe part of it. I think part of like the netcode just comes from how, you know, especially when you're good, you need such a deep understanding of frame data, right? You need to know how many frames something is in order to know how you can or cannot retaliate. And if rollback is bad and you know like the frame data of a move and the rollback is so bad that it kind of affects your ability to react to that move or retaliate to that move, like that's where a lot of the frustration ends up coming from, I think. So that's I think that's the biggest reason why people want good netcode, is because of the way you need the knowledge in that game and the way you have to utilize knowledge in those games. If netcode is bad, like those two things are not going together, which is
Which sense.
frustrating.
But is that a common complaint when someone's, you know, getting tilted in their ranked? Is like, it's the net code? I
is
lost that to some net
sometimes
code.
it's like, oh, the opponent's connection was like dog shit, which to be fair, sometimes it is. And like I've had it where their connection has been really bad and it has affected my ability, you know, like combos drop. Again, you can't, if something is punishable, you can't punish it properly because of the rollback, or because the connection is really bad. Like it definitely is the cause of blame sometimes. I would say more often than not it is a legitimate thing to blame.
Yeah.
For sure. But yeah, that definitely is a factor in it for sure.
I got into Street Fighter 6 last year. First fighting game I ever really played, because they put in those easy mode controls that I love so much. Made it easy for me to compete online. I played nothing but Zangief, the guy who just grabs people and
Nice.
kills them.
Yeah.
Loved it. And honestly, it was like my best experience with a ranked mode in years. Maybe ever, just because I actually enjoyed the individuality of it. I felt like I'd been sort of freed from the pressure of also having to please friends and teammates.
Yeah.
And I could just grind for hours and hours against individuals and just see like how far I get up. And there's definitely potential for that to become a toxic, you know, relationship with myself. But since I know that I wasn't going to like take it that seriously, I was going to see how high I can get and then, you know, decide, I guess I'm that level of a player. It was really nice to know that I didn't have any other teammates to sort of ruin the match for me. I wasn't ruining the match for anyone else. It's just 1v1, let's do this. I really appreciated that about fighting games.
I think that's one of the big, like the most difficult concepts for me about like getting to a certain level in a game. Yeah, that's co-op, would be not just how it changes your relationship to the game, but how it changes your relationship with the people you're playing with, for sure. Because my partner plays a lot of Siege like you do, Morgan, and I don't think they do a lot of ranked at this point because I think some nights are tense, and I think our group of friends, their group of friends, is pretty decent about boosting each other up and like taking a little time to cool off when they decide we're not having any fun anymore. We're gonna go to like Lethal Company or whatever, or like play some other more chill game. I think they've learned to like make those calls well. And I have like a different friend who plays a lot of Destiny 2 with various groups of friends and has said that like, his personal experience of playing is, some groups are more intense than others. And I just don't like, certain coaching between people that winds up happening is when everybody starts offering each other advice on how to play, and
advice.
It takes a certain relationship between you and a friend to like make that work. You got to practice that interpersonal thing
to take that criticism from a friend as well. I remember that being a point of contention when I was raiding in Final Fantasy 14. We were raiding as a friend group, and some of us were more experienced than others. And two friends of mine, one who had played the class quite a lot and one who hadn't played it quite so much. I remember the friend who had played the class a lot had kind of unsolicited, without request or consent, had offered some advice up, and it had made my other friend quite frustrated because he hadn't asked for it and didn't particularly want it either. And it definitely is hard because like you don't want to be made to feel like you're not pulling your weight, right? And I think that's it's hard not to take that stuff as a personal attack. Sometimes, for sure.
So the other shooter that I've played a lot, but I sort of refuse to play ranked, is Overwatch. That's the game that my closest friend group, high school friends, still play together here and there. Used to play a lot. And Mollie, what you're saying about unsolicited advice and that sort of thing, man, it got out of hand. Because we had like one or two players in our group that just sort of considered themselves the genius game master playmaker who was higher ranked than everyone else. They're the only ones that really took the game that seriously. And even though like we kind of made it clear we're just playing, the quick play mode, and doesn't really matter that much. He was like he would make comments about, make sure you block my bullets here with Diva or whatever. Can you like stick with me more, or maybe consider switching? I was like, dude, I know that's Overwatch, the yelling at people about what they've picked, but I'm not playing that fucking game with you.
Like
we
don't
need to
ask
stop
me to
that.
switch in a casual match. Like if we're in a casual match and you're telling me to switch, hell nah, I'll switch if I want to switch, right? It's such a, like you say, Lauren, you've got to have the right relationship for it. If you do not have like the correct relationship for something like that, it is gonna go south like so quickly. You have to deliver that information in like a particular way, I think
it was the three of us that talked on the podcast a while back about playing with your significant other as well. And we were talking more about like fun games, co-op games, things like that. But I think we did briefly discuss competitive stuff. And I may have even talked about it then. But like my friend group and my partner, they're all very good at battle royales. And I really enjoyed PUBG when it came out. And we spent a lot of time like, joking around, having fun in like squads in PUBG, and later like sometimes in the Call of Duty Battle Royale mode in Warzone, and a couple others. But the reality was that they're so much better. They're always going to be better at first person or third person shooters than I am. I just know that's not really in my skill set. I was just there to have fun. So it was easy to just like have fun, not take it too serious in squads. But when my partner and I played duos already is more sweaty than squads. Like people are really focused tunnel vision in duos, and the skill disparity between us, like it never actually caused an issue because I both think we were mature enough at that point in our lives and in our relationship to like make it an okay thing. But we did sort of come to a mutual understanding, like we don't really play duos together because just the skill difference is too much. Neither of us can accommodate it. We like can't meet in the middle, unfortunately, on the difference in our skill levels. So like you, Morgan, I like enjoyed a match of PUBG in a different way of like, I just really liked being on my own and sneaking through the bushes and like having some like quick getaways and like some good moments that like really like make your heart race. Like that was so fun to me. Even if I come in like 9th, even if I like barely scrape into the top 10, I still feel like it's fun, even if I never win in a solo. So have you guys had any of those experiences yourselves where you're just like kind of come to an agreement that like maybe we don't play this game together because of how good various people are at the game?
I think I touched on it at that other show you were talking about, maybe a little bit, but my partner and I, we don't not play any games together. It's more like I had to get a grip very early on when Overwatch came out and we were playing together like on console, and I realized I was getting pissed just if we lost, like just super normal, immature gamer stuff, and I was like, this is ugly. I don't even know I'm doing this until after I've done it. And yeah, it was totally ruining the game for her. So I had to grow up, I guess. So, but after that, once you get good at realizing you're doing that before it happens, it hasn't really been a problem since, thankfully. I've tried to get my partner into like Halo. I've been playing a lot of Halo the last 6 months or so. And I got her to play a little bit of campaign with me, but I feel like if we were to jump in and do like the duos in that game, where it's just 2v2 and that can get pretty sweaty, I think it'd be fun. But I think we would run into a skill level thing where like the game just doesn't know what kind of skill levels to feed us because it's so different, you know?
Yeah, I find it always favors the more skilled player as well, right? So like it was happening with me when I was playing Halo Infinite, first Halo game I ever played, with a friend of mine who had played a lot of Halo and a lot of shooters and was very good at them compared to me, who I've only ever really played Overwatch in terms of shooters, and I am not very good at shooters. And I remember like I think I did mention this. I think I have mentioned this maybe on a previous episode where like I distinctly remember we were in a game of Halo and he was just so angry at like everyone else on the team. And I knew that it was me. It was like me and another friend who weren't very good. And he was basically like ranting and raving like because I think it's like it was like 5v5. I think that's is that how Halo works? Is it 4v4 or 5v5? I forget. But he
a lot of the time it's 4v4, but close.
4v4. Okay, he was like going nuts at like the one guy that wasn't us, basically. And then I remember messaging my friend and I'm like, it's definitely us, right? And he replied back and he was like, yeah, it is us. Like, we're the problem. But he won't say that. Like,
Yeah.
like,
that's also that is a strange experience. Yes, that right, my friend group that plays Overwatch, similar thing where we'll be like a group of 3 or a group of 4 on a 5-person team. And the one person who isn't in our group just becomes the object of all of our hatred if things aren't
Yell
going
at the
well.
rando to keep the peace.
You know, like it's not healthy, but it's healthier than getting mad at your own friends, I guess, because this is a person we're not going to actually talk to or engage with directly. So I guess it's I've never really done this because I realize how silly it is, but when my friends who sort of need that competitive outlet, I guess, need to let some of their frustration out, it's good that they've realized it's better to do it on the person that we don't know, and we're never see again.
Yeah, it's like that
to be fair,
Community.
But,
have you seen that episode of Community with I think his name's Todd, and then like at the end he's like trying to be everyone's like lab partner or something, and they're all like really unnecessarily rude to him, and they're all the problem. And then right at the end of the episode, they're like, "Yeah, it's like Todd's such a dick, dude. Like, oh my god!" And then Todd's like just in the corner of the classroom, with, like a tear rolling down his cheek. Todd is the random.
Yeah,
Todd is
that's the difference. Is that when it's in a game and we're in our Discord and they're not talking to us, that's where it's easy to just blame them for everything because we're not going to actually ever talk to them about it. The few times that they've gotten so mad that they've actually like typed in chat and like voice chat to this random person, like do better, is like, dude, what are we doing? Why are we playing fucking video games? I thought these are supposed to be fun. Uh, it, yeah, I don't know. I feel like to certain personality types or certain people, like you play a game for so long that you just kind of like lose the novelty of the game itself, and all that's left is the novelty of seeing the rank go up. You know, like, and I think those people need to take a break and then wait until the game is novel again, because that works. But I feel like that is the road. That is the road to toxicity.
Yeah.
Morgan, when you wound up actually writing about this on the website, it was about Hunt Showdown. What happened with that one? That's another, it's an extraction sort of battle royale type thing, so similar to what we've been talking about. But was that like a different experience than some of the others?
Yeah. So what was interesting about getting good at Hunt Showdown, I kind of alluded to it with Siege 2, is that once you get to a certain rank in shooters, at least, the only games I really have that much experience in, it's not just the matches get harder; it's that the way people play totally changes. And in Hunt, a game that basically lets you equip any gun from a list of over 100, and tools and traps and that sort of thing before you go into a match. What people bring into a match kind of ends up defining what the match is like. It's like, did you face someone that had this crazy expensive gun this time and you had a cheap one, and what was that like? Were you able to counter it, or did you go in with an expensive loadout and ended up kind of dominating because you actually got to use this gun you spent a lot on? So that's kind of like the dynamic of that game, is like sort of purposeful imbalance, where you go in at a sort of with a level of power, and you try to maybe overcome people with more or less power, and take their stuff. Maybe you walk in with like a $10 loadout, and you leave with like this gun that costs like 1,000 in-game bucks to buy. That's the fun of that game. But when we got to 5 stars on the ranking system, which is like the second to highest rank you can be, we started, like, all that variety in Hunt kind of disappeared, and we noticed that people were just sort of playing with the meta guns. Like, people had sort of figured out a long time ago what the most effective play styles are, just for like getting kills and never dying. And those are the guns that they took to make that happen. It was the sniper rifles. It's the really powerful pistol that kills in like one shot to the chest if you're close enough. And yeah, that was a thing where it's like the difficulty was whatever. We were still competitive, and it was still fun in that sense. But it had gotten a lot less fun simply because people had stopped engaging with entire chunks of the game, because kind of it's like Hunt's an extraction shooter, which is different than like Rainbow Six, like this round based tactical shooter. Like, it's supposed to be kind of a sandbox. You go in and you sort of decide what kind of match you want to have. And we realized this together, that once you get to a certain rank, you're only really getting matched with players whose entire goal is to get as many kills as possible and then leave the map. They don't really care about doing the hunts, which are like the objective of the real objective of the game. Kills are supposed to just sort of come as a matter of course. It just felt like we'd entered a world where only one type of play mattered, and it really kind of soured the game for me, and it kind of like slowly we ranked down and got back to the normal game, and it was much better.
Yeah, I feel that, like, that shift is like such a big thing in fighting games as well, and obviously my experience with ranking up is in Tekken, and you kind of have to learn how to play low level Tekken, and then you have to learn how to play high level Tekken, right? In low level Tekken, people will throw out super unsafe moves, and you could kind of throw out unsafe moves as well, because if they block it, they don't know how to punish it. They don't know they can duck certain strings, and they don't know that they can sidestep certain strings. So like in the beginning, you can kind of get away with pressing buttons, especially if you know kind of a little bit of how to press buttons better than they do. Like, you know, if you have some semblance of frame data, it can kind of get you really far in the lower ranks. And then you hit a point where everyone knows the frame data for your character, right? And those like moves that are launch punishable, you can't really throw out as much anymore, because if you do and they block it, they're gonna know exactly how to fuck you up, right? They're gonna know the best, most optimal way to rock your shit if you make a single mistake. Those like strings that you're abusing, people are ducking now, and it becomes like less of a like, how many buttons can I press to make things come out, and it becomes more of like a, what do they think I'm going to do, and how can I then do the opposite of what they think I'm going to do. You know, you need to like have an idea of what they're going to do as well. Oh my god, it gets so stressful.
It goes from like people knowing the move set to people knowing the playbook, right? Like it's not just knowing individual moves, it's knowing like how they're strung together. It's like when you start hearing about high level chess, right? And people talk about certain opening gambits, and I'm like, I don't know any of that stuff. I will never understand that, but I do understand. Yeah, it's kind of like that.
It's chess. It's mind games, and it's having to
it's all chess.
Yeah, it's you have to think like 2 steps ahead of like what they're going to be thinking, and you know, you have to like, if they're approaching you, you have to think, are they going to do a mid, are they going to do a low, and like you kind of have to read what they're going to do in that moment, and it's very mind gamey. Kind of the further along you get, because obviously the less predictably they play. And I think that's especially interesting is like the 2 games that I've tried to get good at. One is very mechanical and very structured, right? One is like, I could go into a raid in Final Fantasy and I can know exactly what ability I'm going to do at like a certain second, right? I can know that like 28 seconds into this raid, I am definitely going to do this move. And if I don't
There's a script,
yeah, and if I don't do this move 28 seconds in, then I've done something wrong, right? So like getting good at something very methodical, very mechanical, and like you say, very scripted, is so different from getting into something where there's such like a layer of unpredictability towards
like
it,
the reactivity of it, right?
Yeah, like having to react and read, and you know, you can play the same character 10 different times and they will all play that character slightly differently, right? And you have to, in that moment, you have to kind of adapt. So like, obviously I prefer the more mechanical, methodical, because I've always really liked learning in that way and knowing that like at this moment I'm doing this thing and the boss is doing this thing, and I can like plan around that, and I know that I'm doing good. But it has definitely been interesting learning or trying to get good at something that's a little bit more unpredictable as well.
Yeah.
Molly, you mentioned that or you know, Lauren did too, that it becomes more of like you start thinking about it on a higher level, and you start to sort of see types of players in ranked, and you're like, oh, okay, just based on what this character's playing, how high their rank is, I think they're going to do this. And then when you're right, it's kind of like, oh, that kind of feels cool in its own way. It's kind of like you've unlocked the next level of this game. In Siege, there's this fun interaction where you get the same thing going on. You see someone pick Ash on the other team, who's like the fast character with this really sort of frag loadout that's just good for killing, not really cerebral. And you're like, and the stats support this, that when lower ranked players end up with higher ranked players like that, they end up with pretty good stats when they pick like the trap operators that no one picks, like these characters that are supposed to be bad because they've set down these traps that can kill you, but everyone knows how to get around them. Well, when you're high enough ranked, you just stop looking for traps because no one uses those characters and that kind of thing. So like the character that no one plays, Frost, you set down the mat and it's like a little bear trap you step on. High ranked players step on those things all the time. Like it's like you play in like a copper or silver or gold match like I end up in. It's a bad pick. Everyone's going to see it coming. But if you get into plat, you're going to catch people off guard because they're used to people just playing like the highest meta picks, and they kind of forget that about that part of the game. It's cool.
That's funny. Molly, I feel like what you're describing a little bit is the difference between like PvP and PvE, because we've been talking a
Yeah.
lot about competitive player versus player games. Have either of you
Hmm.
guys like had experiences either trying to or just like thinking about getting good at a game that is either solo or cooperative, I guess? I think I'm even more asking about like solo stuff, like not even online,
Solo,
PvE type stuff.
solo. I guess. No. I think Final Fantasy 14 is the closest I've ever come to that, because it is cooperative, but it is also like very much a solo performance at the same time. Like you've got passing, which you shouldn't do, but everyone who savage raids pretty much passes, right? Which is like an individual reflection of your own contribution, right? It is a number that is plastered next to your name, and that is how well you did the raid compared to everyone else in your class who did that raid. So, like, you can look at your group after you clear, and if I have like a 90 pass, I'm like, oh, that's pretty good. If I have like a 70 pass, I'm like, oh no, like I need to look at myself and look at like look at what I'm doing wrong, right? It's because it is a cooperative performance. It is something that you are doing with other people, but it is also so imperative that like your own understanding of your class, because no one else can tell you how to play your class. I mean, they can if they want to be like a dick about it, but like you know how to play your class, and you have to go to your positions at the correct time and like all that kind of stuff. Like in terms of doing anything, kind of getting good at anything on my own, I did
Molly,
like
you were good
what?
at solitaire for a minute there.
Well, okay, I didn't try and get good at solitaire. I just
You
tried
were
to speed
speed
run.
running.
I
That what
tried to
else is that though?
I tried to
That's the
speed run
pinnacle.
solitaire, which I guess rhythm games, actually. Rhythm games is
Okay,
something
yeah.
that like that's a very how did I not think of that? I have spent a very large chunk of my life trying to get good at rhythm games, which is largely a
Hmm.
solo experience, right? I have played rhythm games with other people, and some rhythm games that I play have a ranked mode as well that I never engage in because their accuracy is like off the fucking charts, and mine is poo poo. But that is something that I don't try and get better at that for anyone else. That's not me competing with other people. That's not me cooperating with other people. That is just me trying to get, and again, it is that kind of like methodical, mechanical like learning, because
Hmm.
the way you get better at a chart is by playing it over and over again, and you know when the notes are coming, and you can kind of start to position your hands or your fingers or whatever you're using to play. I'm thinking of My, which is like my main arcade rhythm game. You could start to like position your hands because you know where the notes are coming, and
Hmm.
that's really fun. So yeah, rhythm games are my big one that I've tried to get good at solo. And I would say as well, My is probably the video game that I am the best at. um I'm like decent at My, I would say. I'm not amazing at My, but I am pretty solid. So
I'm thinking about how impressive it is to watch people do like those wild Beat Saber runs, you know? Like
yeah,
that's a very
right.
ultimate getting good at something that's solo.
Yeah.
Morgan, do you have you play a lot of competitive stuff, Morgan. Do you have anything like solo or offline?
I've been racking my brain. I really don't think I do. I think I play enough PvP every week that if I'm playing something single player, I just chill. I'm bad at rhythm games, but I enjoy them. And even like Balatro, that new poker
Yeah.
deck builder, um, I've seen people putting up 30, 40, 70 hours in it already, that have beaten it a bunch of times and have all the decks unlocked. I feel like there's a competitive edge in that, right? You're just trying to like sort of challenge the game to see how well you can demolish it. I don't
Hmm.
really have that drive with it. I'm still trying to beat it my very first time, and I have 3 hours in it. So I think I'm in a different class of not very competitive with myself, only with other people.
Yeah. I think the closest thing I could come up with is like Hitman maybe. And we've talked about
Oh yeah,
Hitman
you were
speedrunning
big
before,
into
Molly, which
Hitman.
is not something. Yeah, I mean, I don't even want to say that like I was but like I definitely made a point of like doing particular challenges and like wanting to clear a level a certain amount, like a certain way, or like doing a certain achievement. Like, yeah, I think that's
Honestly, I
maybe the
did do that.
closest.
Yeah.
Yeah, that too.
Hitman made it really fun to try
Hmm.
to tick off all of its challenges. I guess that would be my example too. I've tried to do almost
Hmm.
everything in those Hitman games.
It does make it really fun. Is there any particular game that you have never gotten super good at, but that you want to be the kind of person who could be really good at, either a type or like a specific game?
Tekken.
No, that's not it, Molly.
Tekken.
You compete in Tekken. It has to be
No,
something else.
do you know what I think the problem is? I'm friends with too many people who are good at Tekken. Y'all are
Uh
bitches.
huh.
My friends, if my friends are listening to this, I love you guys. You guys are bitches. They're all so good at the game, and it's so frustrating. And I think that's the thing about getting good as well, right? Is like I like to get good on my own terms, in my own time. And I feel
Uh-huh.
like when you have like friends that are also into the game that you're trying to get good at, it's a blessing and a curse. Cause it's like, oh cool, I have someone that I can like share this passion with, and we can grow better together. But then it's constantly comparing yourself to
Hmm.
these people as well. Like being the worst in a group of friends who are all into something fucking sucks. It sucks butt, dude. It sucks butt so bad. And that's why I think that's why I'm good at rhythm games, as stupid as it sounds, because I'm only competing with myself. I'm only
Hmm.
competing with myself, and I don't feel the pressure to get better, and I just enjoy the process of learning. Apart from
You ever
that,
had the experience, Molly, of being the first person in your group that gets into a game, and you kind of like you feel that drive to get better at it, and then after you introduce some friends to it that have way more time on their hands or just get way more obsessive about games they like, they blow right past you, and you kind of like lose the drive that you had.
yeah.
You don't like stop enjoying the game, but you just kind of realize that like, oh, okay, I guess I'm not that good, and I'd have to, and I'm kind of looking at what I would have to be like to be better, and I guess I just don't really care anymore. Yeah, I've had
I
that.
don't have that I don't have the strength to self-reflect like that and like wanna improve. So I either get good immediately or all of my friends surpass me and I resign myself to being terrible forever.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's happened to me, Morgan, starting a game and people just blow past you. Like I Red Dead Online is like pretty collaborative. I wouldn't say there's much like comparing yourself to other people in any particular way, but I feel like I have friends who are just very good at like I said, my friends are good at shooters. Like I don't know why this is who I'm friends with all the time. But like everybody in my life is good at shooters, and like my best friend of years, we used to play like GTA 4 online together. Notorious for being able to like pistol off the wheels on a car from
mm,
way too far away. Just way too good. And I'm just like, well, that's never gonna be me. Like, you start any game and you're just instantly like a whole notch better than me on day one. And it's devastating.
Yeah.
I really think it
Why
just
do
comes
people
down to how you enjoy games. Like
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
if what you get out of it is just like remembering these fun little moments you had, like I think you also tend to just not play for as long, and you maybe like for instance games that with ranking with like competitive modes that also like to have you pick characters like fighting games or Siege, anything like that. There's this concept of maining a character, and a lot of people will main one or two characters, expressly because they want to just be the best with that character. Like if you can,
Mm-hmm.
it's easier to get higher ranked with one character than trying to get a high rank with a bunch of characters.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah,
and
for sure.
that's never how I've played Siege particularly. Like I don't play one character even though I probably should if I wanted to get higher ranked. If I just mastered Ash, like I mentioned, I could probably get a higher rank because I was just using one gun, one gadget, one role, and I could really fine tune that. But that's just not how I enjoy Siege. I like to look at this like big grid of like 30 operators and just be like, oh, I feel like playing this one right now, and that's like an inherently uncompetitive decision. But
Yeah.
it's just I like the variety. Yeah, it's more
Yeah,
fun that way.
it's fun. And to go back to your question, Lauren, sorry, Fortnite is something that I would really like to get into and be good at.
Yeah.
We've spoken about the fact that I'm really bad at battle royales and I hate the idea of queuing just to drop and then immediately get killed and have to do it all over again. I keep seeing these videos on TikTok of like the Fortnite girlfriend that is downed and she's like crawling for the loot while the boyfriend is trying to revive her, and I'm like, I love that. I wish I could be good at Fortnite. Like, I have friends that play Fortnite and I don't want to like drag them down by being someone who has played Fortnite maybe like once, like, but apart from that has like never touched it. Like, I would love to be the Fortnite girly. I don't think it will ever be me at this point.
Do your friends play zero build?
Yeah, they do.
That's the best. That's the most accessible and I think best mode in Fortnite. So I don't know. They might. Fortnite's a bit different. If you're a new player in Fortnite, the game will just feed you matches with mostly bots at first.
Ooh. Yeah, I didn't know that. I was terrified of getting my shit rocked by a 10-year-old.
Yeah, I mean that'll happen. That'll happen too. But even once you're 100 hours deep in Fortnite, it's still, the matches are still like sort of half or maybe 1/3 bots. So you can actually have a lot of matches where like you get easy kills, you at least get a feel for the game, and then maybe you get your shit rocked by some 10-year-old from a mile away. But I don't know. It was a pretty okay time up until that point.
I want to be really good at Dark Souls games, which is a shameful thing to say because I love Dark Souls games. I have dedicated a lot of hours to playing Dark Souls games, but I know I'm not that good. Like I'm never going to be good at PvP. I don't even want to think about being good at PvP. I just know that's never going to be me. I just want to be like better at even the single player than I am. Like I want to be someone who can rock into someone's co-op and get summoned and just trash a boss for them. I wish that were me, but I know it's not because I can't parry to save my life. This is also why I don't play fighting games. I don't have whatever I have never possessed. It's not even an age thing. Even in my young spry years, I never possessed the like fine motor control to like quickly react to things well enough to be that person. I wish I could be though. I wish I could be great at Dark Souls, the ultimate get good game.
Kind of wish I was good at strategy games. Partially because it would open up a lot of single player games for me to enjoy that I can't really get into right now. But also the few strategy games that people actually like to play PvP, like a slow burn civilization match with like 3 or 4 other people. That actually does sound kind of awesome. I just don't think I have the chops for it.
Yeah. Guys, we got through this whole conversation, and you know what game we didn't mention at all, even once, was League of Legends, and I'm proud of us.
Who plays League of Legends?
Not us.
Ignore the millions of people who play that game and the fact that I played it briefly 7 years ago nearly, but who plays League of Legends, right? We don't talk about
we don't talk about League around here.
We don't talk about
it's a huge blind spot for me. I don't do MOBAs, but they are right next to FPSs as the most competitive games out there.
My first ever League game, someone said go bot or I'll report, and I didn't know what that meant. And that was
Did they report you?
I didn't even know what that meant. I was like, what does go bot or I'll report mean? I was like, what the hell?
Jungle.
Yeah, and I was very frightened, and I didn't really play much after that. I played Annie, I think then that was it.
This is very easy to say for someone who does not play MOBAs, but I really believe that MOBAs are the least accessible genre in competitive gaming. Like the number of things you're supposed to know that you're supposed to do before the match even starts is absurd. The fact and the fact that it's so important that someone will just say, go bot or I report you. Like this, the number of things you have to know to even know what that means is just
None
wild.
Of those words are in the Bible.
Yeah, like
the layers of jargon.
Yeah.
Oh man, yeah. Well, there it is. None of us play League, and we will continue
Lauren,
not
for
playing
bringing
League.
that up. Appreciate
I'm
that.
so sorry. I'm so sorry to throw that grenade in at the last minute. I was just waiting to see if it would ever happen. Like, well done. No League chat here. Well, thank you both who have been good at games ever. for telling me a little bit about it. Obviously, I'm not one of the get good people, but yeah, getting really good at a game, worth it? Maybe. You just have to take care of yourself and your friends, and know when to step back, know when to go to the single player games. Keep
Yeah.
track of your own mental health as you get good at a game, right?
When you're thinking of planning a trip to Vegas, your friends will tell you, just bring like a certain amount of money, plan to lose that, and if you do lose that, it's fine. Just don't dip in anymore, and you'll be fine. Competitive gaming's a little bit similar. Like, go in, see what rank you get after you do your placements, whatever. Maybe try to climb a little bit, but as soon as you feel the experience starting to sour, you need to get the hell out.
Know when to walk away.
Focus on learning, not on winning. I think is a really, especially in the early stages, even in the later stages, like try and don't go for the win, go for the lesson, go for the learning experience, see what you can take away. Even when you win a game, like a comp game or like a ranked game, like it's such a hard mentality to get into, but it definitely helps, I think, to not focus on whether you're winning or losing and just focus on what you're learning in the moment. And if you don't learn anything that day, that's fine. That's gonna happen sometimes. Like, sometimes I win or lose and I'm like, I didn't learn anything from this experience, and that happens. But sometimes I win or lose and I do learn something from that experience, and I think that's always the most important and cool thing.
Growth.
It's
beautiful.
Yay.
Well, thank you both for being here. You can, of course, if you're listening, read Morgan's experience with Hunt Showdown on PCGamer.com, entitled "I Got Good at a Competitive Shooter and It Sucks." You can read all sorts of other things at PCGamer.com, all the usual news, reviews, opinions, guides, all that good stuff. And as usual, you can talk to Mollie and I about this week's episode at forums.pcgamer.com. And aside from that, guys, see you later.
Bye.
Bye.